Today we are doing brows. I'm going to be using these two products. So this is you want to look at your face with your eyebrows quite relaxed. So there we go. I have filled both sides in now. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing brows, all about how to fill in your brows for a lifted and natural effect on the brows. Brows make a humongous difference to the face shape, and if you're wearing very little makeup that day, just adding a little bit in certain areas on your brows make a huge difference to the overall look of your face. So if you're new here and you don't know, I am Anastasia Bishop, professional makeup artist of almost 10 years. I would love you to consider subscribing to the channel, and you can also come say hi to me over on Instagram, where I'm also very active almost every single day. So let's get into learning how to fill in our brows for a natural lifted result. So something to think about that you may not know that is available to you is something you can do to maintain your brows and help them be obedient and listen to you if you find that you have really stubborn brow hairs. And for a lifted result and filling in the brows, the way I like to do it is having the brow hairs pushed up a little bit more. Now, brow laminations are something that you have to go to a salon or someone to go get done, but they are hugely helpful in just getting specifically the tail end of your brows to be able to be more brushed up. Because a lot of people's, especially Asian brow hairs, they grow quite strongly down, and it's very hard to get them to stay up and lifted with just makeup and brow gels and products that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So brow laminations, they are very similar to a lash lift. I do brow laminations on my clients here in Hong Kong. So if you are in Hong Kong, send me a message. I'd be happy to meet you and do your brows. And they soften the hairs and they make them more malleable, and you can then that way position the hairs however you want. I'll put a few photos here so you can understand what I mean, what a brow lamination does. It's very transformative. I wouldn't recommend doing them too often because they are a bit drying to your hairs. So you want to just do it maybe every 8 weeks. And then also tinting your hairs is really great if you have lighter hair like me. So that's a few things that you can consider doing that's not makeup related. But today we're just going to be doing makeup related. But so you know, I do have my brows laminated. Now, in terms of brow products, there is so many methods and styles that you can use to add definition and makeup to your brows. Benefit Cosmetics have been like my number one for many, many years. And today I'm going to be using these two products. So this is the Precisely My Brow Detailer and the Precisely My Brow Wax. So these are fantastic. So there's many waxes and gels kind of like this, where they have a little bit of color on them, or there's ones that are completely clear as well. Benefit do clear ones. I have a small one from Rose Ink, which is great. This is a mini version of the Benefit's classic 24-hour brow setter. Benefit have a lot of minis, so you can like really just see which ones work for you. Then you have things like pomades and a bit more of a creamy product. So this one from Makeup Forever is the Aqua Resist Brow Sculptor. And this is really waterproof, and you would apply a little bit of this on the back of your hand. You get the color, and then you need a brush and you would dip that in and paint on your brow hairs. These kind of techniques, maybe I would say, are slightly a little bit more advanced. Same with this brow pomade from Benefit Cosmetics. And then you have, pencils and powder. Powder would be the other step that I think is really easy to do. So this one I've had for so long. These are from my kit. I use this for lighter hair clients. You have some wax formula and then the powder there. Great for blondes. Benefit is just fantastic for blondes as well. And then we have Anastasia Beverly Hills, which is, I think she started off with brows, and that's like that was her main business. Of course, now she's, moved on to other products. This is the brow powder duo in the dark brown, and I use this on almost all of my other darker haired clients, and it's just really easy. Mostly using the dark one, but then dipping in between both just to get that softer ombre effect on the brow. And these come in so many shades and nice and small. Love it. But today we're going to be using these two products from Benefit. I've been using Benefit Cosmetics for so many years for my brow hairs. Next, you want to think about the shape. So The shape for a lifted look is focusing on the tail end of the brows. When I'm doing people's brows and filling them in, most people have a fair bit of color in this area here, and most people just need a little bit more at the front, but not too much. And then most people's focus where we need to fill in definition is on the tail end of the brow, and this makes a huge difference of adding dimension and depth back to the face and almost lifting the face. So if you do too much in this front center part of the brow, you can start to look quite angry, and it gets very intense quite quickly. So you really want to make sure you're only doing a little bit in this area. Now, if you have wide set eyes, it does help to actually bring them in a little bit closer together. And if you have eyes that are already quite close together, you definitely don't want to bring in the brow color too close together here, because that will just enhance the look of your eyes being closer together. Definitely on the tail end is where we want to add the most color and, extra brow hairs effect. And then so the shape that you're going to fill them in, there's many different styles and shapes to fill in your brows. I'm a big believer in just really following the natural brow and not changing it all that much, although just slightly going up and down in certain areas. So for a lifted and youthful effect, I'm not one to particularly love doing a huge arch on the eyebrows, so like making this arch a lot higher in the center part here, lifting up the arch. I feel like this is a little bit dated and aging kind of style. And then there's also the opposite, which is fully straight brows, which often I think this trend came from Korea, and it looks a little bit youthful and cute. So we're kind of leading more towards that direction, but still just, enhancing your natural brows that you have is the way I like to draw brows. But if you think about your brows as two tracks, like train tracks almost, okay, like two lines, on the tail end where we're going to fill in most of the color, don't focus on this line. You want to focus on the top line of the brow, because this will help give a lifted look. If you put too much attention on the lower, it's going to just pull down and draw down the brow. So let's get started in filling out the brows, and I'll show you what I mean. I like a pencil like this one from Benefit because it has a spoolie on one end, and I really use that to flip between the two. So first you want to start by brushing up the brow hairs, seeing what you have to work with and where you need to fill in. I do start kind of at the center here where the color first starts to drop off a bit, and start filling that in. Light strokes, feather strokes. You don't want to think about it as like you're drawing one long line. It's just little flicks, and that keeps it quite light, starting at the base and then flicking up and out. So then when we get to the tail end, you want to look at your face with your eyebrows quite relaxed, and up here is where you just want to make it ever so slightly a bit higher than maybe where your natural brow is, adding a little bit more depth up there, and not on this line. It's on the top line where you want to add height to the eyebrow almost, and that's what helps give the brows a lifted effect. Often people's brows do need to be drawn just a little bit longer. And that's filling in the tail, as you can see between the two sides, with the tail drawn on and no tail. How that has just added shape to my face, framed the edge of my face. As we get older, we do lose brow hairs and they become less. And so adding that shape and dimension back is really helpful to the face. Now, if you feel like you've gone a little bit too much, that's why the spoolie is fantastic, and you just grab it and you just blend it out, and it just softens all of the edges. Because this is not about an Instagram brow, a really strong brow. This is about everyday brows that we can do at home. And then I'm going to do a little bit at the front here, but you can see how I don't really need that much in the center part. The front, flicking upwards to give that hair-like effect. But being careful not to square it off too much. Okay, very softly, always go in with my spoolie and brush it up. You want to go up and out, like in this kind of direction. So that's the brows done on that side. You really stand back and have a look and see if there is any gaps. You know, it's not that bad, but have a look if you can see any light strokes. And that's kind of how I do my eyebrows most days. Now we're going to go in with some brow gel, and this one is lightly tinted as well, so it just adds a little bit more depth to the brows. You can get clear ones, you can get darker ones, there's so many. Sometimes they do have a little bit too much product on them and you start brushing on and you're like, wow, too much. So don't start at the front, start a little bit further back where we don't mind having a little bit more depth to them, and then make sure there's not too much hair on them. Always brushing up and out. If you feel like the hairs are a little bit too long, you can kind of at the end brush them a little bit down. It doesn't tend to bother me, but some people's hairs do need that. But I tend to like the fluffed up look. And there you go. That is one brow done and one brow not done. I'm sure you can see that it is a big difference to fill in your brows. When I'm walking around on the street, and you know, as a makeup artist, I do often slightly analyze people's faces. It's just a habit. I can't help it. Not in like a harsh way, just in like, what would I add or change, or, you know, just as a mental learning experience. It's always the tail end of someone's brow. Like, it would just make such a difference to that person's face if they filled that in. It just looks a little bit more refined and made up, and it's just such an easy thing to do, is just fill in the tail end of the brow. So just to recap, always remember to fill in, focusing on the top end, the top train track, the top line, not focusing too much on the bottom line, as that will draw the brow down. And keeping true to your natural brow shape is, I think, a good method, not trying to change it all that much. And if you do find that you have overplucked a little bit in the 90s and your brows are quite skinny at the tail end and they do have that natural arch, a way to soften that arch is to bring it down a little bit more in this region here. If you've gone too far up in the plucking, bring it down a little bit more here, and then adding a little bit more on this end will help flatten out that curve of the eyebrow. I'm going to quickly do the other side as well. So there we go. I have filled both sides in now. It's all evened out. I hope that was helpful but short video. And one more thing I wanted to say for brows and the brow colors. Obviously, I did it with blonde colors in mind because that is what I have. If you are a blonde, please try to make sure you get cool toned, or more in the cool toned direction of like a light brown, because if you do get one that has a little bit too much warmth to it, it doesn't look all that natural for us, especially when you go out in the daylight. Because as a blonde, our roots and our underneath colors are quite ashy and gray and dull, and that's kind of what works best to fill in the brows. Warmer tones often look a little bit jarring and they don't sit quite right. But that is the video. Please drop any questions that you have down below. I will link all of the products that I have used along with other brow products that I enjoy as well, because there's so many around. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Comment brows if you watched till the end, and please subscribe to the channel as well, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.